Hello, fellow Crusaders, and welcome to our latest episode of the Weekly Crusaders. My name is Sean Waskrug. With me, as always, is Brian Michaels. And today we are talking about two movies that came out during the week of July 30th into August 5th. We've definitely got a comedy and a movie. Like I said, we had to skip last week's episode. We had time constraints, stuff like that. So we had no clues for you guys going into this week's. What's up?
Real life interferes sometimes.
Exactly, real life interferes, and if we're gonna skip a show, Weekly Crusaders is probably the easiest one to skip. So you guys had no clues going into this week's episode, but we got a comedy that, for what it is so fucking under the radar, underrated. And then we've got a movie that I know Brian's not a fan of, but I think, in my opinion, is probably my favorite M. Night Shyamalan. If not my favorite, my second favorite. And I shit on M. Night a lot on this channel. And you guys know this. Brian definitely knows this. I shit on M. Night a lot. And we're going to start with that movie. I'm talking, my pick is the 2003 M. Night Shyamalan film, Signs. Signs came out August 2nd, 2003.
2002.
What? I wrote 2003. All right, my bad. 2002. Of course it did. I went to the movie theater. That's how I watched this movie. Signs came out in 2002. August 2nd, 2002. It had a budget of $72 million, had a weekend opening of $60.12 million. It was number one its opening weekend. It spent 3 weeks at the number one spot. It had a finished box office of $408.25 million, $227.97 million domestic, and $180.28 million international. Yeah, like I said, on this channel, I have shit on M. Night quite a bit. I call him the ultimate con artist in directors. He's phenomenal at making a fantastic, captivating trailer, and then his movies are about 50% good, and then the last 50% are fucking you over because you can't get a refund once you've watched the movie for 50 minutes or 50% of the way through. And Brian doesn't agree with that, but that is literally what it was like when I worked at the movie theaters. People could not get full refunds once they watched 50% of the movie. And I shit you not, M. Night Shyamalan's films always tank right when it passes the halfway point of the film. But Signs was when M. Night was still cooking. Like, he had done Sixth Sense, and he had done
Unbreakable.
I was like, Unbreakable was before this. So he had two, and then he went into this one, and he was still rated off. It wasn't until The Village, which was, I think, his next one after this, where it was like, ooh, that wasn't good. And then it started the downward spiral of M. Night.
Lady in the Water, The Happening, yeah.
Oh, yeah. The Happening, Lady in the Water, After Earth, Last Airbender. My God. But Signs was one that I loved. And I do have a really great, funny story about this movie as well. But we're going to go to Brian here first because this is my movie. But Brian, and yes, I did peek at your Letterboxd. So either you did what I did and you didn't change your score before watching this until I wouldn't know, or knowing you kept your score the way it was and you were not a fan of this film. But go ahead.
So I have not watched this movie in a long time, like decades at this point. I can't remember the last time I watched this movie. So I remember the basics of it, but I didn't remember my specific thoughts on it. So I started watching this movie, and first of all, I like that it jumped right in. I like that it doesn't take excessive time to build it up. It's like right from the very beginning.
No, it is from jump. It is
right from the beginning, things started happening, and like we said in the previous movie, it's like it doesn't do that thing where it's like, oh, nobody believes you, and you spend half the time trying to convince people. It's like, no, from the beginning, they're like, okay, this shit's going down, and we know what's going down, and I liked that about it. And I like the tone of especially the whole first half, where you're kind of building up the mystery. That's the thing with the M. Night Shyamalan movies. Like, you talk about how, like, at the halfway mark, how that's when it loses itself. I think that's largely because in his movies, including this one, like, the first hour is kind of like building up the mystery, and then it's like when they kind of reveal the mystery and the movie goes from there. It's like that's when it kind of like jumps off a cliff sometimes.
Have you noticed? Because he did it in The Happening, he's done it in this, and I'm pretty sure he's done it in other movies. He gives away the twist through regular dialogue early in the film, and you just kind of blow it off as like nothing, and then it ends up fucking being that. Like you have this moment in the movie where he's talking to when M. Night, actually his best performance in any of his films, by the way, M. Night, where he's like, I think they don't like water. And you just blow that off. Like, you don't think anything of it ends up being fucking water. Like, he did the same thing in The Happening about the plants. and shit from the crazy dude who loved hot dogs. It's like he gives away the fucking twist, and you just don't pay attention to it. But continue.
No, Mel Gibson, I always like. There's usually get like charming, funny Mel Gibson, or you get like angry. I'm gonna rip people's asses apart, Mel Gibson. And this is kind of that rare. And this is kind of that rare middle ground where Mel Gibson's kind of he's very kind of subdued. He's obviously very depressed and stuff.
Yeah, he's guilt-ridden,
things like that. And but it's still Mel Gibson's good performance. Joaquin Phoenix, I think this is he's not obviously not like smiling and happy in this movie, but he's not yet in that point in his career where everything he's doing is just completely like dour and serious and depressing.
He's still I wouldn't say he's a nobody, but this is his biggest thing. He like this is still one of his very first films because he did Gladiator, which he was a nobody at that point.
He filmed since he was a kid as Lee Phoenix.
Yeah, but I mean, in terms of like,
but as far as like
generating into Joaquin, this was kind of like Gladiator. And then everyone's like, okay, I need to start taking notice of Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah, so I didn't mind him too much in this movie. Culkin, which Rory Kieran?
Rory, I think it's Rory. It's Rory.
This kid, I thought he was horrible in this movie. I thought he was a horrible actor.
Here's the problem with the Culkins. They all just remind me of a cheap version of Macaulay. They all do because
Macaulay hasn't done real acting since he was a little child. So yeah.
I get that, but you listen to him talk, and it's like this just sounds like Macaulay and like Uncle Buck, or Macaulay and like Home Alone. Like they all have the same inflection of voice. They all have the same like mannerisms to a point, except he's a very subdued in this movie. Rory is. But yeah, they all just sound the same.
But I didn't think he was a very good actor. I mean, I think a lot of the dialogue in this movie feels very, very, stiff and scripted, but especially when he was trying to deliver it. I mean, some kids can deliver like, kind of more elaborate dialogue. I think he didn't do a very good job. But yeah, the first half I thought went at a very good pace. I thought the second half, it really fell off. I think the second half was really kind of a snooze fest for me. Again, part of that's because like once you start seeing the reveals, you see the aliens, which really looks like a man in a rubber suit, which looks kind of cheap to me. The ending I thought is kind of a mess. It's very anticlimactic. It's the same feelings I had about War of the Worlds, the Steven Spielberg version. Well, I mean both versions, but especially the Steven Spielberg version, where I thought the build up to it was great, and also it's just like, oh, they don't like in this movie. It's like, oh, the water killed them and they left. Or in Spielberg version, it's like, oh, they couldn't handle this, bacteria in the atmosphere, and so they all died off. It's like, this is so anticlimactic. It's just like it just ends, and that really bugs you about this movie. So I mean, there is that, but I mean, I didn't hate the movie. I don't think my rating on it went up at all. My rating is kind of the same. Where it's like I enjoyed things about it. I enjoyed performances, but overall, I wasn't terribly impressed with it. I think the flashbacks to the wife are completely pointless. I mean, obviously you kind of explains why Mel Gibson's character is at the point he is at, but it's like, it doesn't really affect anything in the movie. And there's a whole thing about, how her last words were, tell your brother, whatever, just swing away. And it's like, well, I don't think that was even so much her like having this vision of the future so much as just, people always told him that his problem was he just swings away and anything. And she just told him, just do that. Keep on being who you are. Keep doing that. So it wasn't like prophetic or anything. So I didn't feel her scenes added anything to the movie. But like I said, I don't hate this movie. I think it was after Sixth Sense, which is a good movie, but highly overrated, and Unbreakable, which is less overrated, but I still think it's good, but not great. I think this is kind of his first misstep for me, but not nearly as bad as his bad movies, like, Lady in the Water and The Village and some of those.
See, I agree with you slightly to a point to what you're saying, but then strongly disagree at the same time. It's the scenes with the wife are entirely necessary. And it's not because she sees something in the future. That's not at all what that's meant to be. And that it's when he has these moments of duress, obviously with someone who's being riddled with guilt, he thinks back to that moment because that moment has now changed him. And so just like most people who have gone through a guilt-ridden thing where it's, he's mourning, he constantly flashes back to those moments at these weird times. What it's saying is that because his whole through point through this whole movie is that he's lost faith he believes that there either is no God or he hates God because he was a father because of how he lost his wife. And all she is saying is see what's in front of you, pay attention what's in front of you. It wasn't like a clairvoyant thing, like she saw this shit happening. She was just more saying, see what is happening. And he noticed where Joaquin was, and then her saying swing away, and he was like, yeah, swing away.
But I think
And
one flashback would have been sufficient. They kept going back to it, like it's this big deal.
well,
It's like,
it's not even necessarily one. It's all one flashback. They just kept clipping it through because M. Night wanted to basically leave. He didn't want to give away the shit too early. But then you also don't want to do that whole flashback right then at that end point because that stops it, like in the middle of a suspense scene. So like I get why he did it because he's like, I need to get this stuff through to certain points, but I don't want to shoot that whole scene right there, right in the middle of an alien grabbing Rory Culkin, because then we're too far separated. Not that it's a super long scene, mind you, but no, she was never, anyone who thinks that she was just seen into the future, that's not at all what she's saying. Is that he, because of his through line through this whole film, is that he believes that there is no God anymore, or that God forsaken him. So he refuses to look. He refuses to see things, which is why I love that scene with him and Joaquin on the couch, where he talks about there's two different kinds of people. And he basically, which is like I said, and Joaquin, he's so subdued, hilarious in this film. He's got some great dialogue in this movie. And he talks about, how he like almost kissed the girl and the girl would have puked in his mouth and he never would have recovered from that. And he's like, so I'm a man of faith. He's like, what are you? And he's like, do you feel satisfied? Yes. Then why does it matter? Like you have these moments, and then you're watching throughout the film is that there is stuff happening, but Mel is refusing to see it because he doesn't care anymore because of where he is. That when this stuff happens, he is starting to see that everything happens for real. And this is coming from someone who's not religious, but I do love how M. Night wrote this out, is that, Rory got poisoned, but he has asthma, so his lungs were closed. So he sees, this is why this happened. This is why Rory got grabbed. This is why he had asthma. This is why he had this. Abigail Breslin, I'm blanking on the character names. She's constantly leaving water all over the place. He doesn't see that. She keeps saying the water's contaminated all the way throughout the movie and all this kind of stuff. He doesn't see that. And then all of a sudden, bam, he notices it. What's the one thing he can do to attack the aliens? Let him swing away. And all this. It's all this stuff finally coming together that it makes Mel's character, who, like I said, has forsaken God through all this film, to finally see. And it's that moment where he realizes, oh my God, this is what she was saying all this time, is that I haven't been paying attention. I haven't been seeing because I've been choosing not to, because I've been, cheated out of my happiness. That it opens up. And I think Mel does a fantastic job throughout this movie. I love Mel's performance.
I agree with that. Yeah.
There's that the moment where he's talking to M. Night and he's like fighting back tears and stuff. Like I love that. Like I said, I love the moments with him and Joaquin. I love the moment where he's kind of being an asshole at the dinner table and he just breaks down with mashed potatoes in his mouth, which probably is not the easiest thing to do. I love his performance throughout this whole thing, and I love the subduedness of it. And yes, the script is very blocky, but I can chalk it up to it being like a small town, and these people just are very kind of. I live in a small town. I know how these people kind of talk like that, where it's very much like, do you know how to talk to people normally? Like, because you're very awkward. And that this whole town is that way. They're all a bunch of awkward people. But M. Night always writes his characters like that, if you've noticed. Like, they're all awkward people. He's a very awkward writer, but in a small town atmosphere like Signs, it works, I think, beautifully compared to it being like The Happening or, Split or something like that. Which Split it worked because of the multiple personality disorders. But I think it works really well here in Signs. And I love the alien reveals through this. I still like that scene with the alien walking across and like Joaquin's. That is a scene that has been always like burned in my head, because that was a moment, like, I remember being in the movie theater when I worked in the movie theater. That was one of those moments where we talk about where, as ushers, we always make sure to get into a theater at a certain time. We always made sure to go to a theater at that moment because the audience would like lose their shit at that moment, because it was just like, oh my God, they actually fucking showed it. And just like the humor that they put throughout this movie, I thought was great. Like, because it's subtle humor. It's not like wacky, out loud humor, but it's subtle humor. Like, he comes home and they all got, the freaking tinfoil hats on their head. And, Abigail Breslin is adorable. Abigail Breslin in this, where she eventually is really just fucking annoying, but she's adorable. Abigail Breslin in this movie. And I love the way this was shot. I think, especially in that first half when they don't know what's going on, I love how they shot like the night scenes out in the farm and how you constantly were like, I don't know what's going on. And then when they do get brief glimpses, like that moment with Mel's in the cornfield and he turns the flashlight and you just see the leg. It's those quick glimpses like that M. Night was, I'm not gonna say he still is because he's not, was so good at developing this layer of terrified horror without going full on horror movie. And like I said, the ending, a lot of people like to shit on the ending. I thought the ending makes sense for the characters that we have throughout the movie. Do the aliens tend to kind of become bitches at the end because of it? Yes, but Steven Spielberg fucked up too. But for the characters that we've got, I probably would have said it would have been better if that was something that only happened with them and it wasn't like the whole world had figured that out, which granted, I mean, it's water. I think they would have figured that out, right? Like what was going to happen if it fucking would have rained?
They picked the wrong planet to come to, I'm just saying.
Exactly. But I think if that had, which they never do say what the rest of the world figured out. They don't, because he unplugs the TV before that happens, kind of thing. But I loved how they did the aliens. Yes, I know the CGI of the alien in the living room doesn't look as good today, but I mean, it was 2002. But I like that it was the same alien that he attacked in M. Night's house. Like, once again, everything's happened for a reason. Everything's happening for a reason through this character and through this stuff. And I actually really, really enjoyed the character work of this. I enjoyed the writing of it as what it is, but you add that small town element, it flows better. I think performances wise, I think everyone was great in this. This movie, as great as it is, also gives me like PTSD pain because I remember, here's where the funny story comes in. I am watching this movie. I took my my family to see this movie when I worked at the movie theater, because I get in free, all that kind of stuff, and so do they because they're with me. And I always sit next to my mom because she will like whisper, ask me a question or something, and my dad usually sits on her side. And when she doesn't like scary movies, so when she watches scary movies, she usually will like kind of like grab my shoulder or something and stuff like that. And I'm like, all right, whatever. And she's like this the whole time, and it's at the scene where he goes into M. Night's house, and you have the hand come under the door. Great shot, by the way. But when that happened, it scared the crap out of her, and she went, "No!" And she did no like this, and wham, right in the balls. She hit me, and I just went, "Oh my god!" and she just started. I'm in pain. She busts out laughing. And completely like ruined the scene. So every time I see that scene, as beautiful as it's shot, it hurts me because I remember my mom basically elbowed me in the nuts out of fear at that moment of that scene. It's not the first time I got hit in the nuts while watching a movie. There's one time, side quest. Was it Mummy Returns? I think it was Mummy Returns. I was on a date. And it was not going well, and the girl was being super annoying, where she just keeps talking throughout the whole fucking film. And it's the point where, when he keeps giving like messages to the bird, and the bird flies off, and the bad guy shoots the bird. You remember Mummy Returns?
Vaguely, yeah.
Well, she keeps talking, and it's the scene where she shoots the bird, or they shoot the bird. And she goes, "Oh, that bird!" And I said, "That's life. Birds die." And she just wham hit me in the ball. I was like, I don't even care anymore. It was fucking worth it. Like because this girl just would not shut up. She just ruined the movie for me. And I just remember that that's life. Birds die, and I got hit in the nuts. So not the first time. Won't be probably the last time either. But no, I love Signs. I think this, to me, writing with the elements of the small town, with everything, and you still have the weird kind of like weird like townspeople thing, because even in the Happen you had the hot dog guy, which everyone knows him as the hot dog guy, and like in this you had the guy in the bookstore who thought everything was about Coke or soda. He was counting all the soda commercials and shit. I don't know. For some reason, Signs has always worked for me, and I feel like there's one or two. There's either people who didn't like it, who thought it was overrated, or was the start of M. Night's downfall, like you think, or there are the people that fucking love it. And I'm obviously on that side, and you're on this side, where you don't hate it, but you thought it was the start of his downfall. And like I said, this is the movie where I finally was like, isn't this the guy from Gladiator? Oh my God, this guy is actually really good. I know you don't like Joaquin, so I'm not going to defend Joaquin to you. But I do like once again those little moments, like when they think it's the I can't remember what the boys' names were, but they thought there was the boys on the roof. And he's like, we're gonna go out there, we're gonna cuss and curse. And Melvin's like, I can't curse. I can't curse. Like, I'm losing my mind. It's like I said, because Mel's played it so level the whole way through. It's like great moments like that. And then I even loved like when he's at the army or like sign up thing, and you got that moment where the guy was like, oh, he's also got the biggest strikeout record, and he was like, I just didn't think of a reason not to swing, which once again introduces stuff towards the end of the movie. I feel like he did a better job in this movie than most of his films by leaving trails of what's going to happen throughout the film, so that way it actually lines up incredibly well all the way through. Whereas like stuff in like The Happening and other movies where it's like, no, you just threw this shit in at the end and none of this fucking makes sense. And it's just fucking stupid. And I think Signs, and I haven't watched Sixth Sense in a long time, but Unbreakable was kind of the same way. It's like he's leaving you like little Easter eggs of like pay attention to this shit throughout the film. And I think Signs is incredibly well done. But like I said, it's not for everybody. Case in point, Brian. And I had a feeling I was going to have to defend the movie a little bit. Because I remember Brian just being like, you're picking Signs, aren't you? And I was like, oh, that doesn't bode well for me that he's saying it that way. But then you're like, I haven't watched it in forever. And I was like, well, maybe he'll like it. But I was like, I'm banking on like a 3-star film for you. But you gave it 2.5. Which there's some 3-star movies that you gave that I'm like, Signs is better than that. But, anyway, we're going to move on to Brian's pick. This is a movie that, for the cast alone, there is not enough people to talk about this movie, because this movie is fucking hilarious. And the Rotten Tomato score, what? We are talking about the Jason Bateman and Ryan Reynolds hilarious comedy, 2011's The Change-Up. The Change-Up came out August 5th, 2011, had a budget of $52 million, had a weekend opening of $13.53 million. It was number 4 its opening weekend, its highest ranking, and had a finished box office of $75.45 million, $35.08 million domestic, and $38.37 million international. I don't understand why this movie flopped. Because it's not like Jason Bateman and Ryan Reynolds weren't big by then. Jason Bateman had already had Arrested Development. I think also maybe one of The Horrible Bosses by that point. And Ryan Reynolds was already fucking Ryan Reynolds. I don't get this. I don't get it. Brian, this is your movie. Go.
Yeah, this is a movie. I am always been baffled by this movie. It's because it's got like a Rotten Tomatoes 26% critics rating.
Yeah, what the
but
fuck?
Even audience rating 47%. On Letterboxd, it's got like average of 2.5 stars. And I don't get this at all, because I mean, I don't know if it's people went in expecting more of a usual body swap movies, which tend to be like family friendly kind of things, and this is definitely not. This is like the R-rated version of a family friendly.
Absolutely, in the best way.
It's like this and then Freaky are like the two like R-rated like body swap movies. But yeah, in the best possible way. So I don't know if people went in not expecting it to be like a dirty movie kind of thing, if that affected the ratings, I don't know. But even people I know that have no problem with like adult content like gave this low ratings. And then like Ryan Reynolds and Jason Bateman, they aren't doing anything other than they would normally do. They're doing what Ryan Reynolds and Jason Bateman do at the top of their game, and it's no different than what you normally see from them, and they're doing it great. And what are people expecting going into this movie? I have no idea.
The only thing in this movie that I don't, and I'm not even gonna say I don't like it, but it's like the one part where I'm like, was that they kept CGI in the babies. And that part I was like, why are we doing that? Why are we doing that?
And
But
this is
but
2011, so I can forgive it more there than I can for like The Flash.
But yeah,
But
but it's like a little thing. It's not something that like deters the whole fucking film. But it's just like, why are we doing that?
yeah, you
Like,
could have shown them like misbehaving and getting into trouble and stuff like that without the CG babies. I agree with
exactly.
that. I had no problem. I still thought it was funny.
But no, Jason Bateman. This is what I love about Jason Bateman. Maybe because like I said, I'm like you. I can't fucking understand why people didn't like this film. Jason Bateman is always fantastic at being like the straight man. You know, the one that's like the what's the word? The man of reason. You know, he's the one who points out the stupidity of others. Like he's the one that seems to always be the smartest one or the most logical person in the room. When they let him go full on R-rated raunchy, that's the best Jason Bateman. Like he's so good at the other thing that you don't get this other version very much. Like you got him in like Bad Words and stuff like that. When you let Bateman off the leash, Bateman is great. And then when you got Ryan Reynolds, who's always off the leash, and you have to kind of contain him, that's also because Ryan Reynolds has layers. He can do that shit.
Well, that's one of the best parts about it is I think that when they do the swap and they're basically playing each other, like Jason Bateman is basically playing Ryan Reynolds' personality in his body and vice versa. I think they do such a spot on perfect version of it. It's like, I mean, there's movies like Face Off and that where they kind of become caricatures of each other.
Yeah.
But in this one, I think that it's almost like I feel like Jason Bateman said, okay, Ryan Reynolds performed this scene, and so I can see how to perform it exactly like you would perform it, and because they both totally feel like the other person's personality in their body.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. And I love that. And here's the one thing that I love about this that we don't get in a Freaky Friday or Freaky to a point as well, and all the other different versions of this. Because normally you get the I don't like you, God, you're annoying, swap, oh my God, my life's over, you know, blah, 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 blah. And then they each live like half a day or a day in their lives and then realize like, oh, your life is hard. Yes, yours is too. We need to appreciate each other better. And swap, we're over. In this one, they actually live in this body swap for like over a week and embrace the change and then better themselves as people because of it. This movie lets this swap breathe and live in it. It's not trying to rush you to the finish line with going, okay, their switch. Oh my God, our lives are so different. I appreciate you. No, it's like, no. Like they start to do that. And then they realize when they do the whole part where they can't find the fountain, then it's like, okay, no, we're stuck like this. And then you get this great character arc of the Ryan Reynolds character through Bateman of, I don't want people looking at me as a screw up. I want to succeed at this. I want to do this. And Bateman as Ryan Reynolds is going, I want this time, you know, and I get to appreciate this time and stuff like that, and then learn what I'm missing out on. And with it's so.
Well, that's one of the things I really loved about this movie, and part of where a lot of the heart of it comes from. Because there's a surprisingly amount of heart in this movie. Is that most body swap movies, like if it's Freaky Friday with the mother and daughter, things like that, or whatever else, a lot of them are about like, you know, learning what it's like to be the other person. It's like, you know, oh, I've learned to understand my mom, and oh, I've learned to understand my daughter, and you know, we can get along better now. This is them learning to appreciate their own lives, what they have and what they wouldn't have if they had to stay in this other body. And I think that's especially in the case of Jason Bateman. You know, he wishes he had this freedom and things like that, and he realizes, no, I really love my family. I miss my family. I want to be with them. And Ryan Reynolds, through Jason Bateman's thing, get to have the conversations with his dad and understand their relationship better and things like that. And
then also in the time for him to go, I want to be better. I can do this. I know I'm capable of more than what my life is. So, and they in a way, like, does that change him by the end of the movie? We don't know, because we kind of get to the end and then he's still kind of Ryan Reynolds to a point. But I loved that, like, his character wasn't like, yeah, I'm still raunchy and kind of a dick, but I've earned this moment here and I want this moment. And I love that. I love that with these characters. And even Leslie Mann, who, you know, you love.
That's the thing about this movie is you have Leslie Mann and Olivia Wilde. I mean, come on.
Yes. Yeah, Olivia Wilde much like we said with oh god, what movie was? Oh yeah, with The Island, where I was like Scarlett Johansson, hottest she's ever been. Olivia Wilde, hottest she's ever been in this movie. My God, this woman. But Leslie Mann, like I love
CGI
like
breasts and all, or prosthetic, whatever they were.
yeah, I was like those boobs are like way
Those were not
too big
hers.
to be hers. But like she's got these great moments opposite Ryan Reynolds as Jason Bateman though. Because more times than not, Leslie Mann, she's funny and she gets funny moments throughout films. Very rarely do we get to see Leslie Mann get to like dramatically act. And she gets that in multiple scenes. You get that scene in the supermarket. You get that scene when on Tuesday night. That's all I'm going to say, on Tuesday night. And Bateman as Reynolds says this thing, and you see that moment where she's laying in bed and she's, feeling that moment. And then you had that moment where, was it the kitchen, where she tells Ryan Reynolds / Bateman what happened the night before. But you get these moments, and then that moment at the end at the dinner. Like she has these great, like just little dramatic little nuggets throughout this film that she doesn't get to do a lot of, but she's earned the character moments in this film. And Olivia Wilde's just fun.
The only thing that bugs me about the Olivia Wilde character is that, as far as I know, at the end of the movie, she doesn't know about the whole body swap that happened, unless they told her. I don't know.
I don't think she would believe it.
But she's just so quick to be like, "Oh, I was with this guy, but it was actually Dave at the time, but now it's Mitch. But I'll still keep on dating him." Like, okay, whatever.
I think it was more or less like they could chalk it up to.
I mean, obviously they're kindred spirits, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But you could chalk it up to like when Dave is, Mitch, that he was just being a scared pussy. And then when she comes over the next day, he's like, I'd like to apologize that I was being a little bitch the next night. And then he just kind of like, just like how she did the night before, she's like, look, I'm not this stuck up person. I'm free and I want to do this. And then like, maybe it like, she chalked up to like, it startled him. And then he's like, no, I'm that too. Let me be free. And then and so she doesn't need to know about the swap. And they can just do that thing, which I would have still loved if we had gotten a reveal of the tattoo, because we never got that. I would have loved to have known what Ryan's reaction would have been to the tattoo, because he never gets to see it. But like the acting gig.
Oh, the Lorno, yeah.
The Lorno.
Like Lorno.
First things first. I got Craig Bierko. I love that actor. He's not in enough things. I love him so much. Yeah. And you kiss that boy. just his dialogue.
He was definitely overdoing it, but he was
overdoing it, but it was so good. It was so good. And if you guys have a chance to do it, I think it's like 7 to 10 more minutes. Watch the unrated cut, because there's so much great stuff in the unrated cut that you don't get to see in the theatrical. And a lot of it has to do with him. And I love that. But like I said, I love the moments that we live in with these two characters, that they're not just constantly trying to find ways to swap back, that they finally live in it to the point when they do finally figure out, hey, we found where the fountain is. They both are like, are you cool today? Yeah, you cool with waiting? I'm cool with waiting. Okay, cool. So that way they can, because they've gotten to a point where he's like, Dave's gonna finally get to go on a date with Sabrina, and Mitch is finally gonna prove whether or not he can, do what he's been, studying to do this whole time. And they're like, I don't want to rush this. You want to rush this? No, cool. And then they both get to that point at the end where they want to go back, and also with great comedic.
I would still love to see how he explained away the fact that this guy wanted to kiss his wife and stuff like that. And I was like, explain that to your boss.
But I mean, that's all they did though. Yeah. Was kiss at one point. And it's are you talking about when at the dinner?
At the end, yeah. When he
was like, just go with it. Just go with it. Kind of thing. But
I mean, there's like so many heartfelt moments, and there's obviously the body swap stuff is all very funny. But then even just individual scenes like themselves, like you said, the Lorno scene. What I also love is when like the pregnant woman comes over and has sex with him. Yeah. It's like, let's hurry up and get this going before it becomes a threesome. You're just like, what the
Tatiana. Oh my God, I can see it kicking. And like in terms of a heartfelt moment is because, like I said, Bateman plays such a fucking prick when he's Ryan Reynolds in this movie. But you get the moment at the recital when the daughter stands up for herself, and they're driving back home, and she says, "I love you, Daddy," and you can see Ryan Reynolds and like, "Oh, I actually I get this now to a point," kind of thing. It's like I said, it's those great moments, or great little character moments where he starts to understand why Bateman's character is the way he is, and then Bateman just gets to basically be on vacation as Ryan Reynolds to a point. And I also love like the little, it's not a montage, but it's like the scene where it's like, look, we're gonna be stuck like this. You need to learn how to be a fucking better husband. And he starts going through like, this is a suit, wear it. This is this, wear. Do I ever get to have any free time? No. I can't have sex with my wife? Can I have free time? What's up? It's marriage.
On any given day, you have like 72 hours of work to do in 24 hours.
Yes, it's so great. And I don't get why people don't like this movie. This movie's so fucking good.
This baffles me, and it's weird, especially because the people I talk to about it, like my friends I have here, and then you and stuff like that, they all love it. And so it's like, well, who are all these people that hate this movie, and why? Because I've never heard from anybody why they dislike this movie.
The Rotten Tomato score baffles me, because it's just, you have two actors that I would say about 97% of the planet loves. Leslie Mann, for the most part, I think is critically loved by everyone. And then you got Olivia Wilde, which for most people was at the time was a knockoff Angelina Jolie, but she's still a really good actor. Now she's more of a director, which people love her for Booksmart, not so much for Don't Worry, Darling, but she's allowed to have blimps on her director debut. But it's got a solid cast. It's got great Alan Arkin as well in this. See, he's got a great moment at one point too. But you got this great cast all the way through, and I actually even liked his boss, Gregory Itzin,
who I only know from 24.
Yeah, I know him. I know him from 24. You got all these great comedic scenes. You got great dialogue, great just moments, because like you said, there are so many scenes, especially with Bateman playing Ryan, that you have it. Like it said, it does feel like Ryan acted out the scene as him, and then Bateman just studied it. And it's like, okay, I got it. And then he just goes, because there's so many times that Bateman does feel like he embodied Ryan throughout this movie, and it's to perfect perfection. And I love this movie, and I hadn't watched it in a while. So when you picked it, I was like, hell yeah. I was so excited to go back and rewatch this. And I think I texted you I was about 20 minutes in, and I was like, dude, I forgot how fucking funny this movie is.
My response is, fuck yeah, it is.
Yeah, because it's so goddamn funny. And it's on
this was on Peacock. The Signs is on Max.
That's right. But yeah, if you guys have the ability to see the unrated cut, definitely go out of your way to do so, because it is hilarious.
But even the unrated cut, hilarious.
Yeah, it doesn't make or break, but the unrated cut definitely has some great moments, especially with the Lorno, especially the mid credit scene. Because I don't know if the mid credit scene's in the theatrical cut, is it?
Where they show the Lorno?
Yeah, when they're in bed and they play the movie.
Yeah, it's in it.
I couldn't remember if that was.
I think so. I mean, it's been a long time since I watched the theatrical, but I'm pretty sure.
Exactly. I can't remember if it is or not, because I always watch the unrated cut. But yeah, the mid credit scene is great as well. But anything else you'd like to add?
That'll cover it.
No. So yeah, definitely a hilarious comedy that if you guys have never seen, you should definitely check it out, because it is starring two people that we absolutely love. Like I said, Signs, probably my favorite M. Night Shyamalan film. Brian, not so much, but if you guys love Mel Gibson, which I don't know if you say you love Mel Gibson, but
we love him here. That's like our third movie in a month.
It is. We talk about Mel all the fucking time. Wait till we start bringing up Kevin Spacey.
Maverick, Patriot, now this, yeah.
Yes, exactly. We talk about Mel Gibson all the time on the show. But if you're fans of Joaquin Phoenix, this is what I said, young Joaquin, where he was still kind of getting his acting in. We love these movies. Well, I love both these movies. Brian loves one of these movies. But we hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you guys did, go ahead and hit that like, share, and subscribe button to the channel so you guys stay up to date with all the latest videos pop up on the Movie Crusaders. And of course, remember to follow us on all the social media outlets you see below. Out right now is my review for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. Brian also saw the movie. Brian, your thoughts?
I still prefer the 2007 ones, because I really like that one, but this was a lot of fun. I enjoyed this one quite a bit.
And I still have not got to see Haunted Mansion. At this point, I'm probably just going to wait for it to come out on Disney Plus. Brian shaking his head. Brian's thoughts.
That's all you need to know. Just no. Lakeith is good. That's about it.
When is Lakeith not good though?
I will say, if you're a fan of like the Disney ride, you might enjoy this a lot more. It definitely has that same kind of cheesy feel to it. Definitely feels like the Disney ride. But I always thought, so maybe families enjoy it more. I don't know, but I did not enjoy it.
I have a feeling, and it's just the point that I'm so busy with work and other prior engagements that it's hard for me to go and see this with so many people knocking this movie. This is, to me, feels like a bubble situation. How can a cast like this be in a movie that's not good? This cast is this is an amazing cast. I
will say one thing. Jared Leto had no reason to be in this movie. You never see him as Jared Leto.
That's a good thing, though.
If anything could have voiced it, but anybody could have provided that same voice. The only time you see him as Jared Leto is in a drawing of him, like a newspaper article drawing. So I have no idea why he's in this movie, unless there was cut scenes.
I prefer that because Jared Leto. I don't care for Jared Leto, but the rest of this cast is amazing. So I can't understand how I'm actually like anticipating for this to come out to Disney Plus because I want to watch this and understand why. Same thing with like Fool's Paradise.
It'll be on there before Halloween, definitely. So.
Well, yeah, it's like Fool's Paradise. Like once again, that's a fantastic cast. Why did it fail so badly? I still am waiting for that to come out on something so I don't have to pay to watch it. Because if it's one of the worst movies of the year, like Brian says, I don't want to really pay for it, you know. But also, shocker! I called this during the summer movie season or movie preview. The Meg 2 isn't good. What?
It's not.
Shocker. And Brian was calling me like, oh God, just let it go, Sean. No, but Brian saw it and.
Well, you know what? Maybe you'll enjoy it because the first, like, more than half of it takes itself. Well, actually, the whole movie takes itself way too seriously. Like, kind of like the first one I thought did. But especially the first half of this one. The last half hour got some fun moments in it. It's more kind of like what the last part of the first one was.
So it's everything
like
that I hated.
Action and a little bit, people getting eaten and things like that. But this movie, it's just boring. More than anything else, it's just really, really boring.
So you're basically saying to me it's just like the last one where I loved 3/4 of it and then hated the final act. And you're saying that the first 3/4 was boring because you were the exact opposite. So you hated the first 3/4 of the Meg and you loved the final act. And I was the opposite. I loved how it was taking itself seriously and then hated when they went cliche up the ass.
It definitely takes itself seriously the first half or 3/4 of it. But I think it's also boring. So I think I don't imagine you're going to like it any more than I did. I
haven't watched a single trailer that makes me feel that this movie's taking itself seriously. It made it seem like it doubled down on the zany.
In the last half hour, absolutely it does. Absolutely.
Oh my god, every trailer I've watched,
it gets ridiculous in the last half.
Oh god, I'm gonna hate this movie. I'll watch it when it comes out on like digital, so I'm not paying to see.
Let me give you one example how stupid this movie is. Slight spoiler, deal with it. There's like deep down water. We learned recently in the Titanic submersible that way down under, if something happens, it's just going to implode and the water pressure down there will squish you, right? And even one lady in this movie, her helmet breaks and that happens to her.
I think I know what you're talking about. So I saw someone write about it.
But Jason Statham's character is like, oh, as long as I blow all the air out of my body and my sinuses, I'll be able to swim for 30 seconds, 60 seconds. And he just goes out and swims out. No, you would just be squished.
Because isn't he like 26,000 feet down?
Something like that.
It's like, dude.
You would just immediately.
Yeah, I remember reading that and going, "This is why I'm not seeing this movie."
Yeah,
just shit like this. But this week we've got say the title because I always fuck it up.
Last Voyage of the Demeter.
Yes, I always say Demeter, or I always say Demeter wrong. This movie looks promising. Brian and I both seen the trailers. We both think it looks good. I think we like the cast in this. I'm hoping to check it out this week. I have a weird work schedule this week, so it's touch and go of whether or not I will see it. I know Brian will definitely see it. And then on Netflix, Gal Gadot's spy action thriller, Heart of Stone? Is it Heart of Stone?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, that comes out. I'll check that out. I don't know. The trailers haven't really done anything to really lock me in on it. But we will be back next week for another episode of the Weekly Crusaders. I am watching. Or my movie is probably my favorite football film of all time. I've watched this movie.
Wow.
God, I've lost count how many times I've watched the movie. I could probably recite this whole film because it's just so damn fun. And I think it's more appreciated now because of an actor's resurrection over the last decade than it was probably when it came out. And Brian's watching would you call it a classic or a cult classic?
It's an 80s classic.
Okay.
I mean, it's a cult movie.
I've never seen this one, nor have I ever seen the remake. So I know what the movie is, but I've never watched it. And we're going to watch the original. So I'm actually excited to check this out finally. So we'll see if I like it or not. But those are our 2 clues for this week. I think mine's a pretty dead giveaway if you paid attention to what I said. Brian's, you're not going to figure it out. So, but yeah, we'll be back next week for that. But until next time, we are the Movie Crusaders. I'm Sean Wasserkrug. That is Brian Michaels. And until next time, in case we don't see you, go watch some movies and go have some fun.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.